It has already been one of the most punishing winters in recent memory across the United States, and the pattern is not finished yet. A new and significant winter storm threat is now developing for this weekend and into early next week, with dangerous ice accumulation expected alongside heavy snowfall across a broad swath of the central United States and Ohio Valley. This follows a historically brutal stretch of winter weather that began in late January. Winter storm Fern swept from the southern plains all the way to New England between January 23rd and 27th, killing at least 171 people and leaving over 1 million customers without power. Then, just weeks later, a historic blizzard struck the Northeast between February 22nd and 24th, one of the most powerful storms to hit the region in decades, dropping 2 to 3 feet of snow across the megalopolis corridor and triggering blizzard warnings for more than 40 million people from Maryland to Maine. Communities are still digging out. Now, a third major system is organizing. An Arctic high-pressure system anchored over the northern plains is set to drive bitterly cold air southward this weekend. At the same time, a surge of Pacific moisture is pushing over the Rockies and heading east. Where these two air masses collide, the stage is set for widespread wintry precipitation. The threat begins on Saturday, when an elongated band of light to moderate snow develops across a corridor stretching roughly from Montana and Wyoming through Chicago. This initial round will not be particularly heavy for most areas, but it is the precursor to something more significant. By late Sunday morning, the main storm system starts to ramp up across the central plains. A sharp boundary is expected to form between heavy snow to the north and a dangerous freezing rain zone just to the south. The placement of that boundary will determine which communities face the most severe impacts, and at this stage, the models are still shifting, with a notable southward trend over the last 24 hours. Areas in Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana are currently in the highest risk zone for heavy snowfall accumulations of 6 inches or more. Kansas City sits right on that critical line where heavy snow and freezing rain could overlap. Freezing rain and sleet are also possible near Wichita, Kansas, and Joplin, Missouri through Sunday evening. The storm then tracks eastward Sunday night into Monday. Heavy snow bands are expected to push into Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware by Monday morning. The National Weather Service blend of models shows the highest confidence for significant snow accumulation in central Illinois and Indiana, most of Ohio, and into the mid-Atlantic. Forecasts currently suggest at least 4 to 6 inches of snow for portions of that corridor, with higher totals possible in some areas. Ice accumulation is the wild card in this event. A dangerous freezing rain threat appears most likely across southern and central Missouri, northern Kentucky, and portions of Ohio. Residents in those areas should monitor forecasts closely over the coming 48 to 72 hours. At this time, an ice storm is not expected in Tennessee, which was struck by a damaging ice event just over a month ago, but the forecast could still evolve. The storm system is expected to begin pulling away to the east by Tuesday, though its effects will be felt well into the early part of next week across the Ohio Valley and Northeast. What makes this event particularly complex is the temperature contrast on either side of the storm boundary. Ahead of the Arctic air, much of the central United States will experience unusually warm conditions going into the weekend. Temperatures near Chicago could approach 60 degrees on Friday, with Des Moines near 65 and much of Texas in the 70s and 80s. That warmth, meeting the incoming Arctic blast, is what will fuel both the precipitation intensity and the sharp boundary between snow and ice. Once this storm clears, another system may be waiting in the wings. The GFS model has been consistently showing a significant snow event targeting the Northeast between Tuesday and Thursday of next week. The setup remains uncertain at this range, but it is a system worth monitoring closely given that the Northeast is still recovering from February's historic blizzard. The larger atmospheric pattern driving all of this activity is rooted in a polar vortex disruption that began in mid-February. A sudden stratospheric warming event weakened the polar circulation, allowing frigid Arctic air to pour southward into North America in repeated waves. That pattern is expected to persist into early March, keeping the door open for additional rounds of wintry weather across the central and eastern United States. Beyond the winter storm threat, there are increasing signals that severe weather will make a return to the central United States as we head into early March. As the warm air surges northward again in the wake of this weekend storm, temperatures could reach the 70s as far north as the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin by the second week of March. That extreme temperature contrast between warm, moist air surging northward and lingering cold air to the north creates the ideal setup for large-scale severe weather outbreaks, including the threat of tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. The first 2 weeks of March are shaping up to be extraordinarily active across the United States. A persistent trough along the west coast is expected to continue ejecting storm systems eastward, keeping the Central Plains and Ohio Valley in the path of repeated weather threats. Honestly, it could be one of the most active early March periods seen in years. For now, residents from the Central Plains through the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic should stay weather-aware this weekend and into early next week. Road conditions could deteriorate rapidly, particularly in areas where freezing rain sets up. Power outages are possible wherever ice accumulates on trees and utility lines. Monitor the National Weather Service for the latest watches, warnings, and advisories. This forecast will continue to evolve over the next 24 to 48 hours as the storm system comes into better focus.